Do you care about trans women and trans women issues? And
Like, give me an, like, what do you mean?
And protecting trans women. What do you mean? What do I mean? Answer. It's a straightforward question. Do you?
That's actually not a straightforward question.
Do you care about trans women? Do you care about the issues they face? Do you care about being a good ally to trans women? Do you care about trans women?
Time to get into another video of college students saying absolute nonsense from the programming that they've had from years and years of college and years of social programming from social media and all of their friends and all the nonsense that they've been listening to online. But before we get into the video, I need everyone to like the video as much as possible, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell so that you're notified when one of my videos come out, and let's get into the video.
Trans women should be able to compete in women's sports. You want to have that conversation? Nope, too scared. Okay. You want to have that conversation? Nope, too scared. Too scared. Okay. Anybody, trans women should be able to compete in women's sports. Be terrifying. Trans women should be able to compete in women's sports. Anybody have it? You have an opinion? I do. Awesome, awesome. Stand on the neutral line right there. So the game has only 2 rules. We can do it with one. Oh, we got 2 people. Oh, we got 3 people. All right, well, I was wrong. I was wrong. I didn't think it would come. Okay, stand on neutral. Okay, so this is a very simple game. We have a few rules. The first rule is you can't stand in between the line.
Okay.
Very straightforward.
That is.
The second rule is you can't move until I say move. And the reason for that is because we don't want anybody's opinion to affect anybody else's opinion.
Be swayed, gotcha.
Exactly, precisely. Now let me go over this. Strongly agree, slightly agree, neutral, slightly disagree, strongly disagree. So I'm going to ask this question and count back to 5, and don't move until I get to go and stand on a line. It could not possibly be any simpler, but you'd be astonished how many people do not pay attention to the rules.
College.
Trans women should be able to compete in women's sports. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Okay, we've got 1 disagree, 1 strongly agree, 2, oh, you're on the line. Okay, tell us why you agree.
I agree because trans women should be able to compete in women's sports because they are competing underneath their identity that they very solidly align with, and to deprive them of that is to kind of say that their identity is not acceptable in society.
What a very confused generation. We're denying them of their identity. So what you're telling me is if I, as a man, identify as a woman, I should be able to compete in women's sports. I want everyone watching this video to let that sink in, the insanity of that claim.
In society or
like in sports, that they're not valid. Their identity is not validated.
Okay. Do you agree with what she said?
Yes, but that's not specifically why I agree that trans women should be able to compete in sports.
Okay. Why do you think?
I believe trans women should be able to compete in sports because there's specific criterion that trans women have to meet in order to be able to compete under the woman category.
In which sports?
I'm not an expert on all sports.
I'm not an expert either.
But I do know for at least the Olympics, there are requirements for trans women because when trans women go on when trans women go on hormones, testosterone drops in them. So a lot of the natural advantages they might have being born in a man's body are depleted, like the extra strength testosterone gives you and so on and so forth. So they have to be below a certain testosterone level. They have to be on estrogen for a certain amount of time. And even the rule where you have to be below a certain testosterone percentages have stopped cis women from competing in sports. So they're very like hard set rules. There's no
Cis woman meaning what?
Cis woman. Women who are born as women.
Women who are born as women. Okay.
Cis women, yes. Cisgendered is when you're born in the correct sex. So like I was born a woman, I identify as a woman still, I'm cis. If I were to identify as non-binary or anything else, I would not be cis. How are you gonna ask this question and not know what cis means?
Well, cis isn't in the question, and what cis might mean to you, that doesn't mean that people watching this are going to know what cis means.
Things are a definition. Things mean things. Cisgender means one thing. That's just.
Is it possible that some people could define perceive the word women to be different?
Well, I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about the term cisgender.
Yeah, so I think it's important that we define our terms. That's why I wanted to define it.
Yeah.
Do you think it's unfair enough for me to ask you to define it?
No, I just don't. It sounded like you didn't know what cisgender was, and I was just wondering if you didn't know that was why you thought you should ask that question.
Oh no, I'll tell you why later. But I'm a legitimate gender studies scholar.
Oh, perfect then.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I don't mean to brag, but I've really outpublished almost anyone in the world in gender studies.
Oh, you do mean to brag a little bit. That is impressive.
Thank you. I'll show you my body of literature later. But for now, trans women should be able to compete in women's sports. What do you think about that?
I do not think they should be able to do that.
Okay. Did anything that they persuade you? Think about that for a second, but tell us why.
I just think the biological makeup of a man is not the same as a woman, whether they take hormones or not, especially if they've been competing in that sport for years. They did it originally as a man or woman, and then they switched to female, which I played a female sport growing up.
What did you play?
Lacrosse.
I don't want to pause it too much because this is a very long video, but one thing I've always noticed is the people who have actually played sports understand what it will mean if they were to allow men to compete against women. And I've always said this as someone who's played sports as well all my life. I can tell you that there is a massive difference between men and women playing sports. And I've played against what would be the equivalent of a woman in professional sports and me being in semi-professional sports playing against each other. And there is a massive difference between men and women competing against each other, even when the woman is at an elite level. Speaking on football, they can't even compete against an average 15-year-old. That's how big the difference is between them competing against each other. And it seems to be only people who have played sports can understand this. And the ones who haven't just say absolute nonsense and are programmed and brainwashed to say nonsense.
Which is very different.
That's
from,
the one with the thing, the
with
net
stick,
with you
yeah.
like that.
Which is very different from male lacrosse. So I just think that it comes down to the biological makeup of like the training used for it and everything. But I agree with a lot of the stuff that they say. I'm not like they shouldn't do it, but I just think it should be.
So you think, and I just want to make sure I get your argument right, you think that they shouldn't do it because it confers an unfair advantage on the person, even if they've met their hormone requirements, because as a biological male ages before they transition, they have certain intrinsic advantages. Height, for example, maybe in basketball. Or now that doesn't mean all men are tall, but on a Gaussian curve, it means that more men are tall than women.
Yeah.
So is that, I don't want to mischaracterize.
Yes.
Is that,
Yes, that's what I mean.
did that persuade you?
I would say no, because we have talked about like the hormones and like the genetic makeup of a male body versus a female body, but there are changes that can happen whenever someone starts to transition that can affect their muscle density, just like their overall genetic makeup. Well, not their genetic makeup, but like their hormones and just how their body functions. So I don't know if that is like completely valid in arguing this.
What if I could provide you with evidence that even with the hormone replacement therapy, that still conferred an advantage on people born as men?
That it wouldn't give them
It would even if they underwent hormone therapy, it still was an advantage for the trans woman to participate in sports. Would you then be for it or against it?
I would be open to revising my opinion if there's evidence presented upon that.
So you would be open to revising, and would you be open to revising your opinion to go to the agree or the slightly agree?
Slightly agree, but I don't think I would go any farther than that.
Okay. Okay. So the thing that's keeping you must be some identity factor.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about that in a second. So just to be clear, I don't want to put words in your mouth. If you were to be shown evidence to your satisfaction that people born as male who transition, who met the requirements of whatever lacrosse or
still have an
what,
unfair advantage.
yeah, if you were to be shown that they would still have an unfair advantage, you would be willing to move one, possibly two, but not three. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, if you were to be shown that advantage, would you move?
Probably not.
Okay, what would it take for you to move?
Nothing.
I am not surprised that she's the one who will not be able to have her mind changed regardless of the evidence you show her. And people like this are actually a problem to society because you can show them truth, slap the truth in their face, and they'll say it's not the truth. And as I've said, I'm not surprised that she's the one. She already started off hostile by saying, "You don't even know what cis means and you're asking this question?" Cis is a made-up term by confused people who want to change the language to suit their agenda.
I feel pretty strongly about this. Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
Even if you were to show me proof that people born as men who transition as women still have an unfair advantage, I would believe that full-heartedly. I wouldn't try to dispute that if I saw the facts behind that.
Yeah.
However, sports inherently have genetic advantaged players, like Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps.
Oh, with the yeah.
Yeah. He didn't produce lactic acid. He had an abnormally large wingspan. He had webbed toes and webbed feet. And that was not him from competing. That's an unfair genetic advantage. We don't care about genetic advantages until it's someone transitioning from a man to a woman or a woman to a man.
I have to push back on that. I have personally never heard anybody concerned about people transitioning to a man competing in men's sports. Have you?
No, that's also another problem. Why are we still focused on trans women and not trans men as well?
Well,
We
I
think
think
women's weaker,
I think
and it's an unfair advantage.
Yeah,
it should be.
that's why.
It should be but that's what I'm saying. No one really cares about it being an unfair advantage, or we wouldn't basketball, for instance.
Yeah.
If you're tall and height, you could still make it to the NBA if you're above 6'7". But if you're below 6 foot and phenomenal,
Yeah, that's a basketball short.
no, this is football. My shirt. This is the Seahawks, the football team.
Oh, okay. I don't know much about sports.
Yeah, well.
Ask me about gender studies. That's a different thing. But
Yeah,
let's say.
Well, because it's about sports, some of the logistics you have to, are that are in sports come into play here. And like I said, a lot of sports is genetic advantage. Being born and having an aptitude for something shouldn't mean you can't do it.
I don't know if anyone has heard the saying that they became so smart they became stupid. And this woman right here is a perfect example of that, because if she uses her logic and follows it to its logical conclusion, then it should just be the case that men should just be able to even compete in women's sports. Because who cares? People have unfair advantages in every type of sports, and men might have the unfair advantage against women. So therefore, they should be able to compete in women's sports according to her logic. And it doesn't matter whether they're stronger than them on average, whether their bone density is heavier on average. It doesn't really matter because there's unfair advantages in every sport.
That no one wanted Michael Phelps to not swim in the Olympics.
So do you think that there should be one division and we just throw all men and women in the same division?
And that's not what I said.
No, but I'm asking you, is that what you think?
No.
Why not?
Honestly, I just haven't given that enough thought. I do think there is, some pros to having two separate divisions for men and women. But like I said, honestly, I haven't.
What are the pros?
Honestly, I haven't given that enough thought to have a concrete stance on it that I would want to fully stand
That's
behind,
fair.
because I haven't done enough research or thought on it.
That's fair. So you think that there should be two divisions?
As of right now, before I do a lot of thinking about it, but like I said, I haven't put enough thought to it to give you a clear, firm stance.
Okay, so I'm kind of think through this myself. So the reason, and could be totally wrong, I'm just trying to figure this out myself. So the reason that there are two divisions are because there must be certain categories of things that different sexes are better at, or there wouldn't be divisions in the first place, unless it was just some social convention.
You're not wrong there.
So is it possible to abstract from that and say that that reason is what confers an advantage on somebody?
No, because you can have advantages over someone who's also the same gender as you, just as a different gender does. Gender is not the only factor that provides an advantage or not. However, it's definitely one that contributes to an advantage you have.
Right. And
Because there was a trans swimmer in the Olympics. She didn't win. If trans women really have a crazy advantage on women, why didn't she sweep? Why didn't she do the
what does sweep mean?
win everything?
Oh,
Absolutely
sweep
yeah, win all the awards.
Oh, I thought you meant give her a mop and sweep up.
No, why didn't she win all the awards? Why didn't she win every race? And why didn't she beat them by seconds, which is very.
But she did get into the Olympics.
She got into the Olympics. She didn't win, and that's because she's a trained swimmer. That's because she's been training to swim for as long as everyone else has. So it makes sense she got into the Olympics. She's been swimming at that time for her entire career. But like I said, she didn't sweep. She didn't have such a crazy advantage that she was performing way above the ranks of the other women.
So even if it were shown that trans women had distinct advantages, that wouldn't be enough to move you to agree.
Yeah, because like I said, cis woman could have an advantage on another cis woman. So why should I care if a trans woman has an advantage on a cis woman when a cis woman could also have an advantage on another cis woman? Like, the fact that they're trans doesn't really mean anything to me. Like I said, having a genetic advantage can and is a part of sports.
Okay, I think I understand their reasoning, but I'm not positive.
I have a question for them.
Yes.
So do you think that there could be like the women's group, the man group, and then people who are trans have their own category?
Who's the question for? Which one?
Either or.
Yeah, I don't think it's...
I feel like those groups would just alienate them even more and just like put them off into a separate category because they don't belong in women or male.
Please help me understand this. We currently have different categories for men and women right now, and I don't think people feel alienated. We literally have categories for a lot of things when it comes to sports, especially at the elite level. But for some reason, she believes that people will feel alienated when it comes to categorizing the ABCD community and placing them in their own category. Make it make sense.
They're not being put properly into the groups that they identify with.
I don't know anything about sports, as you know, from not even knowing what that means there. The Sea Falcons or whatever. But my question is then, aren't there rules? I thought there are rules against like shooting yourself up with steroids, aren't there?
Yes.
So when you shoot yourself up with steroids, that must mean you have a competitive advantage. So that's why they don't do it, right?
That shooting yourself up with steroids gives you a competitive.
Well, I would assume, or else
That's
there
why it's
wouldn't be a
outlawed.
rule against
Yeah.
it.
Yes, there is a rule against using performance enhancing steroids, but I don't think that's on the same level as hormone therapy.
No, that's not where I was going with it. So
Okay.
no, I was going with it. It's possible that there are certain things that one can do to yield a performance advantage.
Yes.
So shouldn't the idea be, and I'm just thinking through this for myself, shouldn't the idea be that we want to level the playing field to take out advantages for different people?
I think like artificial advantages is what you're trying to say. Like, does she have?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were waving to somebody.
Well, first of all, Seahawks. Gotta wrap.
Seahawks.
Seattle Seahawks.
They're a football
Not the
team
Falcons. Yes, the
from
Seahawks.
Seattle in Washington.
Yes. Also,
And they play, who's the
rival.
no, the person who throws the ball.
The QB?
The QB. Who's the QB?
You want to be more about sports before you ask questions about it? No, but okay. To go off her point, I like performance-enhancing drugs are obviously banned. It's because they enhance your performance. However, if you have enough money, you can pay a coach to help advance your performance. You know what I mean? Like, there's specific training facilities, there's specific programs that all cost money to access. And by accessing those with money, you also gain an advantage. So it's not like these hormones.
So we should
only,
get. Yeah.
It's not like because these hormones are only banned because they're performance enhancing. They're also extremely harmful on people's bodies.
So we should give, if that logic holds, we should give all non-trans women extra coaching to make up for the deficiencies.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm furthering showing that there's already a discrepancy in sports. If you're rich and can pay for equipment, training facilities, a training coach, you're gonna do better than someone who can't. And I'm not saying
Like the
I'm not
Russians and like the Russians in cycling and weightlifting.
Yeah, like most people in the Olympics. Most people in the Olympics have access to really good trainers and really good training. And if everyone in the world had access to that training, I don't think the Olympics would look the same. There'd be a lot of different people in there, but they don't because inequities, like I said, are inherently in sports. They're gonna be in sports no matter what.
Did that convince you?
I kind of forgot what she said.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the idea is you can't control. There are always going to be certain people who have advantages, certain people have disadvantages, and I don't want to mischaracterize your argument, but the idea is that. All right, well, you can come to the next one. You go. All right, well, I guess not then. Okay, so the idea then is that if you're born to a rich family, you have certain advantages, and if you're born to a poor family, you'll have disadvantages. So there are already inequities built into the system, so why worry about one more inequity? I think that's what she was saying.
I think the comparison between the like wealth or someone or the advantages that they have are completely different than like people getting things like hormones and stuff like genetically in them versus like being able to pay for a facility or something.
How does it make you feel if you compete against, for example, in lacrosse?
Yeah.
How does that make you feel if you compete against someone born biological male? Do you think that's like you said, I don't want to put words in your mouth. How does it make you feel?
I would think it'd be unfair, especially if that male came from playing men's lacrosse.
Can I ask you what would seem like a really stupid question, but I'm going to ask anyway?
Okay.
What's wrong with it being unfair? Life is unfair. Some people are born with like no legs.
I mean, that's true that life is unfair, but it's like it's the sport of lacrosse, specifically what I'm talking about, where there's the men's and the women's, and a lot of sports are very different, men and women wise. And obviously, it's not always fair, but it's equally as fair when it's all women versus like the other side being all men versus all men, all women versus all women. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, but I'm not sure it makes sense to them. Hi, you just joined.
Well, I have just a quick sentence.
Okay.
They're gonna say some things. In response to that, if a girl went to a middle or high school where they didn't have a big sports fund and she played on the male lacrosse team and then transferred to a school that had a girls and boys lacrosse team and then she chose to play on the girls team after playing on the boys team, no one would care. No one would care because she's cis. They only care because she's trans. No one really cares about you playing the man version of a sport if you're a girl and then you play the woman version later. They only care when you're trans. It's
Yeah.
the transness of this all is really what people get strung up.
If that were to be the case where I played a male sport and then went to a female sport, I did not pump hormones in my body to genetically get me to a better place than playing with males.
Hi. You do know.
Hi.
Hi. You do know that's what birth control is for, right? To pump estrogen.
But a lot of cis women are.
To pump estrogen into your body so that you're actually physically able to do things. And the point of a competitive sport is to be genetically better than the other person. Take the Olympics, for example. There are cis women that are better than other cis women because they are genetically made to be that way. And putting natural hormones in your body, I hope you know that you as a cis woman also has testosterone in your body as well as estrogen and progesterone.
How do you know she's a cis woman?
Are you a cis woman? Okay.
I didn't know that.
I did, I can tell.
The fact that she just knew she was a cis woman, how do we know she knew according to these people's beliefs? I don't know, because according to them, you can change your gender based on how you feel. So how she came to the conclusion that she's a cis woman, which she pointed out in a very smart way, is very interesting. If I was her, I would have said, no, I'm actually not a cis woman and you judged me incorrectly and you misgendered me. But she was being honest and she actually agreed, yeah, she is a cis woman, which we all know. And cis woman is just a bullcrap term, which is made up, as I said before. And I also want to point out a very interesting thing is all the people who believe in all of this confusion, they all seem so angry. Why are they so hostile towards everyone else? You have the truth on your side, you believe. You don't have to be angry. The truth will fight for itself.
As a
You have like a gaydar for cis women.
I do, because I'm not a cis woman, and I know what cis women look like and act like.
And am I a cis woman?
You're not a cis woman, but if you're a
Correct.
woman, that's okay.
No, I'm a man.
Okay, hello. What are your pronouns?
I need time to think.
All right, no problem. Anyways, sports, that is the entire purpose of competitive sports. And you just trying to justify your transphobia with the fact of being genetically better. What is it?
Who's it?
Personally, I think they should have their own league. That's just me, though.
like
in all sports.
all sport, like a separate category, and anybody
Yeah.
can.
I think there should be like male, female, trans woman, trans man.
So are you? Yeah. Yes, of course.
I do want to say my opinion does not mean I'm transphobic at all.
What does that word even mean? I don't. What does that word even mean? What does that word mean?
What do you mean? What does that word mean?
Well, if she says to you, if I say to you, "What is this?" and she says a blah blah blah, and I say, "What do you mean?" They give me the definition. So, like, what is the definition of transphobia?
Transphobia is when you exclude trans people. Transphobia is when you do not believe that trans people are really the identity they identify with. Transphobia is hatred towards trans people. Transphobia is prejudice against towards trans people. That's what transphobia is. And thinking that trans athletes should not compete with regular athletes in their own separate league is transphobic.
Okay, so do you need all three of those criteria
No.
to be met?
No, you don't. No,
You need
don't.
one.
Yes.
So if I believe, I just want to make sure, because you used the term, and it's very important that we're all on the same page. So if I believe that a person who was born a man who has not had bottom surgery, who got arrested, should go into a woman's prison, who should not go into a woman's prison, am I a transphobe?
That is a completely different question.
To show how stupid these people are, although they try to show themselves as smart people, it's literally the same thing she was just applying, and literally the same standard. He just changed the place in which they would be put in, be in a prison. For some reason, that's now a totally different question. If you believe someone is transphobic because they don't want men to compete in women's sports, the same thing should be applied. If someone says men shouldn't be in a women's prison, according to your standards, they should also be transphobic. But of course, the ABCD community and the woke community talk absolute nonsense, and their standards change with the wind.
I don't even know your reason.
But it's excluding, though.
But I don't even know your reason for that.
Well, it's So I'm trying to figure out what the word transphobe means.
By asking me a completely hypothetical question when I
No, by
gave
asking
you a
you.
definition.
Well, you gave me a definition, but it meets the first one, so that would seem under your definition it's
Okay.
transphobic. You have a definition. Okay,
we're
hold
not
on,
using
hold
a
on.
Google
Hold on.
definition. Hold on. This pisses me off. We're not using a Google definition.
go.
Hold on. We're not using a Google definition to describe transphobia, because this is exactly like when you say white people can't be racist, and they pull the definition of racism, and they're like, oh no, but here it says racism is blah 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 blah. Google definition can literally not define something that you literally have spent years studying. Because you're a gender studies major, right? Or
Not a major, no.
Not a major.
I'm one of the world's foremost
World
experts
leading
in.
gender studies.
Not leading. I'm in the top 10.
Okay, not leading then. You're not a leading world gender studies, just a gender studies. But that proves that you've literally studied this. Like, this is a field that can be studied.
Not only have I studied it, I've
Yes, I know.
outpublished virtually everybody in my field
Yeah,
in a
but not
10-month
leading.
period.
Yeah, but
True,
not leading.
that's true. That's a fact. That's in fact.
So,
you.
but hold on. But that just shows you. So, you've spent a lot of your lifetime studying this field. Yes.
No, about 3 years.
Okay, but you spent multiple years studying this field.
Yes.
Would you say it's a complex field?
Yes and no.
So you publish multiple pieces of literature on it. Obviously, it's not a one done thing. If I could just go onto Google and Google does a bunch of different definitions, then what's the point of studying something? The point of studying something is because it's nuanced, because it's rooted in a lot of history. Google Translate, Webster Dictionary is
Is it falsifiable?
That's not my point right now. That's not my point right now. My point right now is that you cannot take a cumulative history of a nuanced topic and put it into one sentence in Webster Dictionary.
Google Dictionary, I thought.
Google uses Webster.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm going to speak to these two directly.
Okay.
When I called you a transphobe, I meant it. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's an underlying bias towards trans people that you really need to work on. And I'm not saying...
What is that?
What is an underlying bias?
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
I mean exactly what I said, that she has an underlying bias. It's not very difficult to understand.
Okay, pretend I'm stupid. What does it mean? Like, so when I say I have when someone says they have an underlying bias, that could mean a subconscious bias. It could mean that they don't act out. Like, what does that mean?
Okay, I thought I was supposed to pretend that you're stupid. Okay,
Well,
here we go.
In other words, explain it in a way that is crystal clear so that anybody watching this will understand.
Okay.
Because we have people watching this of all ages, all everything, who are trying to figure this out for themselves.
Wait, I have a question. What the fuck is the point of this? Like, what is the goal of this?
What is the goal of what?
Yeah, what's the goal of this? Of us talking? Like, what is your goal in doing all of this?
Well, my goal is to figure out if the lines you're on are the lines that you should be on the basis of the reasons you have.
So you don't even care about, like, adding to the narrative, understanding social consciousness, or, like, social feelings towards this question. You just want to know if we get the facts straight enough to be on the correct line.
No, it has nothing to do with fact. Well, it's a little to do with facts, but it doesn't really have to do with facts. It has to do with reasoning.
So you're just curious on individual reasoning.
I'm curious to know, so let's say, for example, I was standing here in the neutral, and I heard these reasons, and I heard this reasons, and let's just say, to the best extent possible, I'm sincere, I'm honest, I try to think for myself, I'm not really well-read, but I'm a little well-read, I listen to what you have to say, I listen to what they have to say, where should I go? I have no dog in the fight. I'm trying to figure out what's true.
Us trying to convince each other, like, what is your goal? Because right now, because I don't know what you're adding to, like, the social.
Absolutely nothing. I'm adding nothing.
So then why are you, like, because, like, this question just opens up the floor for, like, transphobic people to spread transphobic rhetoric. So, like, why would you do that? Like, what is the point of this? Why would you risk adding transphobia to the world when, like, you just, like, didn't need to?
So do you think these questions are better off not talked about?
No, I think they should be better facilitated.
What could I do to facilitate the question better?
Well, have a clearer goal in mind. Like I've asked you, like, what's your goal? Your goal is just nothing. Like, no one's going to convince a transphobic person that trans women should be able to compete in sports. If they were going to be convinced of that, I should have already been convinced by that. It's been a big topic. Clearly, I'm not going to change my mind because I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, like, let me be transphobic real quick. Like, you don't have a good goal.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Are you convinced that her definition of transphobia is, like, to say that the exclusion thing was the thing that got me?
Like, if her definition of transphobia is correct?
No, it can be anything anybody wants it to be. It can be a pastrami sandwiches if someone wants it to be.
I feel like. Could you rephrase your question?
Yeah, so she gave 3 criteria.
It could be a pastrami sandwich if someone wanted it to be.
Anybody can define anything the way they want to define it.
Anyone could.
No.
This video is absolutely hilarious, and these two that have their faces blurred, and I'm sure I can understand why their faces are blurred, because they probably complain at the end of the video that they don't want to be on the video anymore. So out of the kindness of his heart, because he didn't have to, because more than likely he's on a public campus, he didn't have to blur their faces, but he did it anyway. And I'm sure he did it because they asked him that they don't want to be on the video, because they realized after their nonsense and all of their crying and complaining about nothing, it's very funny how the two with the blurred faces are the most angriest, and they take offense to everything, and they want to be professional victims.
Define anything they
You
want
can't
to
just define it as a pastrami sandwich. That's a joke. Like, that's literally a joke. Like, I'm sorry, that's a joke.
Anybody can define anything the way they want it. There's no...
No, that's not how words work. Words have meaning.
But she tried to look it up in Google, and you told her that wasn't how to adjudicate the meanings of words.
My point in that was that Google definitions cannot adequately describe and explain such a nuanced topic. I didn't say it can't be defined. I just said that Google definitions wasn't going to have a...
Who does give the right definition then? Which definition is correct? How can we...
Hold on. And I don't think there's ever the most concrete definitions when it comes to nuanced topics. However, you can't just be defining words however you want. And you know that for a fact. Colloquially, things mean things. And colloquially, we all know what that shit means. You cannot describe it as a pastrami sandwich. There is very clear parameters that you can work within. You may disagree on specific nuances, but the overall, like, you can't just describe anything as anything. Words have meaning for a reason.
Like man and woman.
Yeah, trans women are women. Like, I don't... See, you keep trying to get people, like, caught up. What is your point? Like, what is your point? Like, this is kind of a joke. Because you could just said...
I know your point. You just want to try to catch us in a contradiction,
No,
and you have literally no reason to be doing this whatsoever.
Yeah.
You're trying to prove a gotcha. Ooh, you have no idea what you're talking about, silly liberals and your silly trans people, instead of just not being a dick.
Yeah.
I know you guys are like, what what's the point of it? My point for coming over here and participating in this is because I'm very open-minded and I like hearing other people's points of views, and I'm not very I don't just shut people down when they have an opinion and start calling them names. I'm not here to promote transphobia at all. That does not say, are you transphobic or not? In no way am I transphobic. I'm just stating my opinion, trying to have an equally conversation of a debate where we can just say how we feel and move on with our lives. I don't think anyone should be attacking anyone.
Did you agree with what she said?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you want to add, or if not, that's okay too.
No, but I think people's emotions get really heightened during topics like this. That's all I have.
Yeah.
Just because emotions are heightened doesn't mean points shouldn't be listened to, because I see both of you. None of you are listening to our points. You're turning to each other, you're whispering, you're laughing, and I see both of you. Don't make that face, because I literally see what you're doing. I'm not an idiot. And second of all, I can probably just describe transphobia because
Do you not agree with her definition?
Oh, I completely agree. I'm just adding to it. So transphobia is systemic. There is a system set in place to put trans people down, to kill them, to put them in prison, and to completely eradicate them. And in your disagreement with trans women not being able to compete in women's sports is boosting that systemic idealism. And when I say that you're a transphobe, that's something in yourself that you do need to work on, because that
Can
is
you define
underlying.
that? Can you define that?
What, underlying?
No, that I got from what you said. I thought your explanation was excellent. A transphobe, because I got her definition. What's yours?
Transphobe is what I said. So transphobe is someone that is adding to a system to put other trans individuals down, whether it be conscious or unconscious. There's some sort of bias that you definitely do need to work through and actually listen to something we're saying. It doesn't matter if we're getting heightened in emotion because we're passionate about something. That should make you want to listen more, and it shouldn't make you want to smirk and act like, oh my goodness, you contradicted yourself, la 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 la.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. So you strongly agree. You're cheating, you're off the line, but that's okay. You're strongly agree, and you're strongly agree. What would it take you to move to the agree line? Let me go for, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, because I haven't. Yeah.
You asked me this already, and I told you nothing.
Okay. What would it take you to move to the agree line?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Would you say absolutely nothing or
Yeah,
nothing?
absolutely nothing.
I just said what I had to say.
Okay.
I would be willing to revise my opinion with, new information that comes out, new studies, new statistics, saying if there is actually a true advantage that trans women have over cis women in sports. But as of right now, there's nothing that is prominent, like as in what we know, that would change my position right now.
Why do you think you should be the one to facilitate this conversation when you don't even care about sports?
I know nothing about sports.
Yeah, so you don't care about sports. So why?
Well, that's not
Like, do you
entirely
do
true.
you care about trans women and trans
Well, wait a
women's
second.
rights?
Let me answer your question first. I actually happen to know a lot about one sport, but it's a very fringe sport.
But you don't care about sports. Sports.
Correct. I don't care about any sports with a ball.
Do you care about trans women?
What do you mean?
Do you care about trans women and trans women issues? And
Like,
protecting-
give me
and-
what do you mean?
And protecting trans women. What do you mean? What do I mean? Answer. It's a straightforward question. Do you?
That's actually not a straightforward question.
Do you care about trans women? Do you care about the issues they face? Do you care about being a good ally to trans women? Do you care about trans women?
I was up with you until you used the word ally. I care about. So the answer to the first question is yes, and the answer
But
to
you're
the
not an ally
second
to
question,
trans women.
it depends what you mean.
It depends on what I mean by ally.
Yes.
What do you think ally means? As someone who's I'm not a leading top, some of you don't know what ally means, but someone in the field, what do you think ally
Okay.
means?
So let me just say, often we use words that we think we know what other people
I
mean.
know
by
what the
them.
word ally means. I'm asking
Right,
ally
right.
because allies, an easy word to understand. Ally means
At your biblical age, are you
55.
biblical? Are you telling
What do you mean biblical?
it means you're older than the Bible? Do you really not know what ally means?
Not that old.
Do you really not know what ally means?
It depends what you mean. If you mean, different people mean different things by ally.
Okay, then come back to me.
Like, it doesn't
So,
mean
no,
somebody
no,
willing
I'm asking
to.
you,
Yeah.
I'm asking you, what do you think? Like, what's your definition of ally?
Okay,
What? No,
I'm
answer
more than
my
happy.
question.
Yes, I will
Answer my
answer that question. Let me we'll go back to the claim. You have my word. I will answer that question. So, I'm just going to wrap up. You have my word. So, you guys, there's nothing to get you to change your mind, and absolutely nothing. I want to make sure clear. Is there anything that would get you two to move to the slightly either to the strongly disagree or to the slightly disagree? Like, is there any piece of evidence that you would have to hear or reason or argument?
I think I would definitely be open to changing my opinion or even just hearing other people out.
So what would it look like for you to move to, oh, you have to play by the rules of the game, which means you have to stand on a line. Yeah. So what would it take for you to move to the slightly disagree? Evidence, reason, data, like what would that look like?
I'm not sure, but I would like to note that I think for a trans woman to compete in women's sports, she has a biological advantage. And then for a trans man to compete in men's sports, she has a biological disadvantage. So I just want to make that point that I do think that's something to consider. And I don't agree with attacking people personally, whether it's that he's old or that I'm sitting here smiling. I don't think that anything to do with this conversation has to do with how you treat other people. And if you're going to sit here and say you accept all people, then you need to sit here and accept all people.
I did not say I accept all people. I don't accept bigots. I don't accept racists.
Old people.
Yeah, old people like you because you're an ass. I accept older people who are open-minded, like my parents, per se, who are actually older than you. And I accept people who are willing to actually open their minds up.
I've heard this whole trope of being open-minded as if it's something that's good, yet these are also the same people who said regardless of the evidence, they won't change their mind, which by definition means they're not open-minded. And I've never even agreed with the statement that being open-minded is a good thing. As I've said in videos before, some things you should be closed-minded to and it's not a bad thing. Being open-minded is not necessarily a good thing because we've become so open-minded in the West that people's brains have fallen out, like these three on the side are saying they agree with the nonsense that's going on. She's so open-minded that she also said she wouldn't change her mind regardless of the evidence. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So you're accepting of people who are willing to open their minds, but yet you are not willing to open your mind for evidence that would take you to go to the agree line.
I'm not willing to open my mind to be a bigoted piece of shit, no.
Anyone who does not have the same opinion as you is a bigoted.
A trans woman should not be able to compete in women's sports has transphobic beliefs. Point blank, period. Trans women are women. Therefore, they compete in women's sports. Like, that's really just, like, the end of conversation. Like, there's really no, like, oh, but, like, you know, like, the boys and then the girls and the testosterone. No, like, it's all based in transphobia. So it's not about, like, me believing in facts. It's not about me listening to the research. It's literally just called, like, I'm saying this line because I refuse to be transphobic. Also, you never answered my question.
Yeah, I promised you I would at the end. I promise you have my word, but I just, because if I do this, we're going to wrap it up. I promise you the moment this is over, you have my word.
I want to talk to you about biology.
Who, them?
Yes, these two. The one that's on her phone and not actually paying attention to me because she doesn't respect me.
Just speak through it.
So, no, because I deserve to be respected and paid attention to. No, I will not take that blatant disrespect. Absolutely not. You want to bring up biology, right? I hope you know there's more than just XX and XY chromosome variations. There are XXXY, there are XXY, and actually a black woman who is biologically female has XXXY chromosomes and then was banned from playing sports in the women's category. Although
Which sport?
It was track and field. Although she is a cisgender woman born with anatomically female bodily organs, she was said that there was a biological advantage. So are you saying that anyone born with a different chromosomal variation, even though they are cis, are not allowed to compete in sports either?
I'm going to ask you.
Wait, no, go to the she asked him a direct question.
Oh, wait, wait a second.
No,
Where did you come from? Who are you?
Ask him the question.
Wait a second. Who are you? Where did you come from? Where did the woman who was right there stand? Where did she go?
She
had to go.
Go answer the question.
I'm next.
Oh, we are?
That's so convenient.
It is. Well, talk to your school. Talk to your school. They're making us leave. Talk to her right there.
I actually don't want this to come back. So
Okay.
I will not be speaking to you about this. Because like I said, this is a joke. You don't care about trans women.
Okay, we're being asked to wrap up. We have to wrap up. We have to wrap up.
I can just keep talking a little bit further. I can just keep talking into the open.
You can. I can't. This is your. I didn't want this to end. This is the boss.
Tape taken off, please.
This is the boss.
And
This video just showcased the amount of nonsense that's going on in the world and how one side seems to be very, very aggressive towards the other side, but yet they claim to be the open-minded ones. But anyway, that was another video. If you guys enjoyed the video, like the video as much as possible, comment down below, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram, X, and TikTok at YinkaThatGuy, and I am out.